How's it going, everyone? It's Friday, August 30th. Let's talk PlayStation. I got a haircut. And that's it for Ryan News, so let's talk about some PlayStation stuff. I want to get right into the cover story, which, you can see by the title and the thumbnail. Titanfall for PS4. Now, there was a little bit of a controversy going on this week, one being that there was a video uploaded to YouTube about Titanfall and Respawn, and it was like an interview of Respawn's history and all that. And basically, there was a certain moment in that video that hinted at PS3 and PS4 development kits, and people thought, oh my gosh, Titanfall for PS4. So I'm going to put up the picture right now, and basically this picture was in the video about Respawn, which is the developer and all that. And as you can clearly see, there's a DualShock 3, very visible right there. And then, of course, there's a blurred box in the very back. We don't know what that is, because obviously it's blurred. We don't know what it is, but of course some people are like, oh, they're blurring out a PS3, or they're blurring out a PS4 dev kit or anything. And then Respawn Entertainment actually responded to that image saying that, hey, we have consoles in the office all the time, we play all sorts of games. Plus, that particular image that was put in that video is actually from 2010, where PS4 development kits didn't exist yet. Point being, this whole controversy, what I want to say about Titanfall on PS4 is, and I'm sure a majority of people know this, it's going to happen. Titanfall is going to come to PlayStation. Without a doubt, it is going to happen. It's just a timed exclusive. That is 100% what it is. I would put very good money on Titanfall coming to PS4, and if it didn't come to PS4, I'd be extremely surprised. I definitely would be. One thing you got to know about this industry is that when there's conversations and interviews and things like that with journalists and all that, you got to look at the body language and just language in general of what these people say and what developers say and what publishers say. It's all about the language. If you want to know, if you want to be hinted at something of what's going to possibly happen in the future, it's all about language. If a company has an exclusive, they are going to say it's exclusive, like straight up. And when you, directly ask Microsoft, like, yeah, it's exclusive to Xbox One and Xbox 360 and PC. But when you talk to the developer and the developer says we have nothing to announce at this time, that right there lends itself to it, right? If the developer knew, okay, Microsoft owns all the rights to this game, it's their game, they would straight up say it like, hey, Microsoft owns the game, it's not us, this game cannot come to other platforms. Also keep in mind, though, Microsoft does not in any way, shape, or form own Titanfall. This is an EA game that, EA is publishing it, and of course EA is an agnostic company. They produce games for both platforms, and this is just one of those things where, why is it not on PlayStation? Microsoft has money, and unfortunately they are the kind of company that will spend money in order to get exclusives for their platform. They spent over $1 billion on exclusives for their system in terms of whether it being, obviously funding Forza or getting Dead Rising 3 or obviously getting, FIFA 14 with every Xbox One. Point being, they, have a timed exclusive with Titanfall, or maybe, for example, Respawn is totally right. Like, they can't get the game, they can't develop for 360, PS3, PS4, and Xbox One all at the same time. Whatever may be the cause, the point is, the game's going to come to PS4. It's going to, just takes time. Just want to, put that out there, right? Titanfall will come to PlayStation. It's just a matter of waiting, and it's good because Titanfall is getting a lot of positive press, and it sounds like a really awesome game. So, So the next round of news stories is actually Shuhei Yoshida. This guy has been answering a crapload of questions regarding the PS3, PS Vita, and PS4. He answered a bunch of questions. He's always dishing out those details, and we always learn a little bit more about PS4 each and every week because of this man. One thing we now know, which I actually hinted at before, and I actually predicted before, back when we were talking about our Gamescom video, I said, the reason why we're not seeing all these AAA titles just yet on PS4 launch day is because I had predicted and assumed, and this is what I was saying, that Sony wants to spread these titles out, right? They don't want them to come out on day one. And that's basically what Shuhei Yoshida is also saying. When talking to Polygon, Shuhei Yoshida said basically that is, what they want to do. They want to have a steady flow of releases. They don't want to get everything out there just yet. And of course, Shuhei is referring to Sony's first-party studios. They have a bunch of studios working on PS4 games, and the fact of the matter is they're not going to just dish them all out right then and there and give you all the big AAA titles, which we know exist and we know are coming, that we just don't have them on day one or even up until February, where we do have something like inFamous Second Son. It's like when the PS3, basically 2008 is when it really started for PS3, when the exclusives really started rolling out, right? We had exclusive after exclusive after exclusive for present day to Ratchet & Clank, Puppeteer, and Gran Turismo 6. 2008 is really when those steady stream of exclusives started coming out, and that's something that Sony's going to do again with PS4, without a doubt, and at least in my mind. But moving on from that story, Shuhei Yoshida also talked to IGN and told him about how that, you know, Sony does have 14 studios. He confirmed once again all 14 are working on PlayStation 4 games, but he also mentioned that some of them are working on PS3 and Vita games, which we also kind of knew. Guerrilla Games has, you know, the amount of teams to work on Killzone Mercenary. The Media Molecule's been split up to work on a PS4 title, and one's doing Tearaway. And of course, there are other developers that we just don't know just yet. And that's good. You know, it's great that we still got PS3 stuff coming, and it's good to hear that there are Vita games being made, because of course Vita's a sort of situation where we want Vita games. And of course, PS4, we knew about that. 14 games from these studios. Games, like, they're coming, right? Like, I think so, like, Sony has that covered, you know. With Vita, it's certainly lacking. We want to see more support there, but there's certainly that hope and that reach, and we do have a little bit of that coming. But it's, you know, I think that's one thing you never really have to worry about with at least home consoles with Sony. You know, the software support is there, and it's good to see that they have the necessary amount of studios and the amount of people in some of these studios to also work on other platforms, because it's crazy that Sony can maintain PS3, PS4, PS Vita, and even, you know, PSP in some territories. So speaking of games on Vita, how about Gran Turismo on Vita? Well, Shuhei Yoshida, when talking to IGN, also mentioned that as well, basically saying putting GT6, for example, on PS Vita wouldn't necessarily be a possibility, because GT6 is quite big, and PS Vita, while it is a powerful machine, probably couldn't, you know, have GT6, the full GT6 on PS Vita, pretty much dispelling any hopes of having Gran Turismo on PlayStation Vita anytime soon. Now, of course, I think Gran Turismo on Vita would actually be pretty awesome, Vita having its own Gran Turismo title. PSP had its own Gran Turismo title, so that would be cool. But I think one thing to always think about here is that if Gran Turismo does come to PS4, which it eventually will, whether it's GT6 or GT7, you know, there's remote play, and if that remote play works like Sony promised, that we will hopefully find out come this November, if it does work as well as they're saying it does, then, you know, you're going to have Gran Turismo on your Vita at some point, because it's remote playable. But of course, I still would also like, you know, Vita to have its own sort of Gran Turismo title, just much like we want Vita to have its own BioShock title. You know, even if BioShock still continues on PS4 and X1 and whatever, you know, the next BioShock console release, major retail releases, that would certainly be remote playable as well, much like most games are being promised. But, you know, we still want these original titles on Vita. So hopefully we'll see more of that soon. So getting into more things that Shuhei confirmed in terms of actually PS4 and Vita connectivity, we got some more details on that. One being, of course, cross-party chat. That totally works. You can invite a Vita, you know, user to your PS4 chat. You can start a Vita chat and invite PS4 users. Like, that totally works. You can be party chat on separate systems, which, for example, Microsoft actually can't do that with 360 and Xbox One. They are not supporting that. I think that's really awesome. It's totally good, because, as I've always said, you want to push that ecosystem, that PlayStation ecosystem. You know, you don't want to have Vita and PS4 to be these disconnected devices like PSP and PS3 were, you know, where they just didn't have that sort of nature where they talk to each other that well. Whereas with PS4, you've got this remote play thing. Now cross-party chat's confirmed. It really gets you into that ecosystem. And of course, there's cross-buy, the cross-play with certain PSN titles on PS3 and PS4. Like, that's what you want to do, because Sony has such a good setup right now, right? They got this whole PlayStation line and all these legacy PlayStation titles, and of course you want to get this Gaikai streaming in there, possibly get that going with all these legacy titles. Just build this ecosystem and get people so invested into it, you know. And then Shuhei confirmed more stuff about PS4 and Vita connectivity, actually something that you can't do, which is you can't, the PS4 has to be in a sustained state while it's being remote played. So it can't do anything while it's doing remote play out, presumably. One thing being Netflix. You cannot use Netflix on your PS4 while you're remote playing a game to your Vita, which would, I mean, I didn't really think about that much. I didn't think, like, oh, what can I do while I'm remote playing? So I guess it's kind of a bummer, but I don't know. That's something I really wouldn't care about. I really wouldn't need Netflix. But I guess that's because I have so many devices in my room already that plays Netflix, so I'm fine with having my PS4 in sort of a state where I can't use it. Because obviously if my PS4 is in this state, I'm doing something with my Vita, which is playing a PS4 game on my Vita. So, I don't know, it doesn't bother me, but maybe it'll bother a few select type of people that maybe, you know, have this one room where, you know, your chick comes in, she's like, I want to watch Real Housewives, and you're like, well, sweet, I'll turn on Netflix and I'll remote play to my Vita. You cannot do that, sir. Sorry about that. But I would assume you're in the minority, but maybe I could be wrong. Okay, so let's talk about this PlayStation camera. We don't know much about it, really. Sony just does not really talk about this thing other than beyond Playroom, which is that, you know, little app that's going to be pre-installed on every PS4. But point being, we know a little bit about it now. One being that, you know, voice recognition is there in terms of navigation. You can do voice navigation with your PS4 and your PS4 camera. Sony was at GameStop's little Expo conference, and they basically confirmed that you can do voice navigation with the camera, and like, I don't know, this is something that Microsoft is doing. That's something they showcased with Xbox One and the Kinect 2.0, saying like Xbox On and Xbox Watch TV and Xbox Play Sports games and Xbox Play Call of Duty Dogs. That's something that, you know, the PS4 will be able to do, basically. And obviously Sony did not demonstrate it in any way, shape, or form. It's just a picture saying, hey, you can do this. So we don't know what it's like. Hey, PS4, tell me to cook my laundry, or PS4 cook my laundry. PS4 play Killzone, PS4 go to a live show. We don't know what in terms of what you could possibly do with this camera, but like the functionality's there. I'm still into the banner where it's like I don't really need that stuff. I'm totally fine with not having voice commands or anything. I'm always going to be having my controller in my hand. I don't know. I just don't see myself using it. I am going to get a PS4 camera, but you know, that's there. If you're planning on getting the camera, that's something you can look forward to now, I guess. So let's talk about our last news story, which is in the title and the thumbnail. inFamous for Vita, you know, or a Suckerpunch Vita game. There was an interview, basically, posted on the YouTube, which, you know, we're on right now. And Nate Fox, the game's director, you know, he was in an interview and someone said, hey, what about PS Vita? You doing anything with PS Vita stuff? And much like I talked about earlier in this video with Titanfall, it's that language. Nate Fox said they have, like, nothing to announce at this time. Dude, in this industry, those words can only mean something. I will, of course, link you to this video in the description of this video for you to see it yourself. But like I said, it's all about that body language. You know, you got to learn this industry and learn how these developers and publishers and all that in these interviews, how they word stuff and how they say things, and it totally lends to what they're doing or what's possible or what's out there. When he was asked, he kind of stuttered, he kind of stopped, he kind of has this weird body language, and he says, like, he said it like 3 times, like, over and over, kind of falling over his own words of, we have nothing to announce, we can't really say anything right now, like, that right there is kind of a dead giveaway, at least to me, as to, you know, Suckerpunch possibly having a Vita title. You know, it's not, of course, inFamous related. It doesn't have to be inFamous related. It could be a completely new original title from Suckerpunch, or it could be an inFamous Vita title. It could be outsourced to a different company, and maybe, you know, Suckerpunch is helping them or whatnot. It's just, you know, there's tons of possibilities as to what it could happen, but it's the fact that how the question was asked and how it was answered kind of lends to a possibility of Suckerpunch having something to do with the Vita at some point. And of course, for me, and at least in this industry, I will totally take that. You know, like, usually someone would say straight up, like, no, we have nothing to announce at this time, and that's just something that they would easily be able to answer off the top of their head, because realistically they have nothing to do with it. But if you have to spend that much time thinking about it, at least that to me that means that there is something in the pipeline, and you gotta work your way around that question, you know. So to me, at least, I'm gonna take that as something is definitely in the air of possibility. However, I encourage all of you to go watch the video of yourself. It's about 5 minutes in. Go watch it, and you know, what do you think? I mean, what does that mean to you, and how does that body language speak to you in terms of what you think that means? And that's the thing about, like, video games and this video, the industry in general, is that gamers and small little insights and in jokes and memes, like, we like pick every possible little detail to get any sort of possibility of what's out there and what's going to happen, you know. It's that's what this industry's all about, man. Taking a magnifying glass and just looking at shit for like 4 hours and going, you know what? This means something. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. Thank you all so much for talking with me. I'm Ryan Vanecki. I'll see you guys next Friday, you know?